Hey, so I just got a message, or it just popped in my head that I should do another video about telepathy and kind of give an update in that journey, because I think that's where like humanity is headed for, and humanity, like everybody eventually is going to be in a telepathic state or be able to do that, and which is scary for humanity because there's going to be a lot of shit coming up. And like if you're wanting to be a telepathic being, then you have to have like your shit on lock, or else like you're gonna put out some bad shit or whatever. And I mean, I've gone through that, and that's what you have to go through. You have to get into that state to want to change it and want to purify your consciousness and purify your mind and everything. So the update is basically it's starting to happen more and more, but the big part about it is, like, I know in the other video I talked about not latching on to telepathic messages that you get, and if you do that, it turns into like a thought knot, quote unquote, and that means like a thought that just like constantly comes up. That's been happening a lot. I think it's just because I'm kind of like in a transition, like a big transition period with my life. Like, I moved out of my parents' house. I'm like living out of my car right now, but I have a job, and I'm like saving up money. I'm about to move in my own apartment, but it's kind of just been rough right now, and it's hard to get into like a routine. And like getting in a routine of purifying your vessel is really important. Like I said, if you wake up, do like 20 minutes of meditation, then do like Kundalini yoga, and then do like another 10 minutes of meditation, and then like go jog and do yoga. If you can do like all of those things and then do like another 10-minute meditation, that's like, it sets you up really, really, really good for the day, at least for me. And then maybe doing like another 10 or 20 minutes around lunch, and then I usually do like 30 minutes before bed, which is a lot, but I mean, if you're trying to live in a human world while you're constantly getting bombarded by other people's energy, you have to like stay really present, I've been definitely having more telepathic stuff happen, but again, it's holding that higher frequency and being in that flow state for long enough where you're not perceiving anything and you're not reacting to anything with any kind of thought or analyzation. And that's really the state that it takes to experience telepathy in a masterful way, or a more masterful way. I'm obviously not a master yet, but I see like how being in that flow state, if you get there, and that's where the true telepathy comes through. Like, if you're in a state where you're maybe in a state of love, but you've been thinking about things and you're still analyzing things, you can't really trust that telepathy that comes in. If it's like you ask a question, and this is where I went wrong, and like I'm still learning, and learning what not to do. And maybe that's what's so important about my journey, is like I'm learning it all for myself, and so that I can share and teach people what to do right the first time, instead of like going backwards, then going forwards, and going backwards again. But yeah, what was I saying? So I kind of like got addicted when telepathy started happening. I kind of got like addicted to it, and I would like be trying to connect with that energy all the time, and like ask the Father Source energy, or ask like other ET beings like questions. And I got really addicted to it, and like it went very quickly into I was answering my own thoughts with like some other part of my consciousness that I basically created, and I've had to learn that the like true telepathy doesn't happen when you're like searching for it, really. It's like, and Emery Smith gave a good example, is like, if you're just like minding your own business and like driving down the road, and all of a sudden red fire truck pops in your head, and then a red fire truck like comes around the corner. That's like kind of how telepathy works, is like, or if you're in like a very zen, like peaceful state of love in like the lotus position, and you've been in that state of being for a bit, and you're not thinking about anything, and then all of a sudden something pops in. It's usually something, they'll give me messages like right at the end of when I'm sitting. Like I'll sit for 20 minutes, and right at 19 minutes and like 57 seconds or something, there'll be a telepathic message that comes in, and then my alarm for my clock will go off, and it'll like basically confirm that message was real, because I'm in that state. But yeah, further along down the road, if you can sustain that state of being, and like you're meditating, doing like Kriya, and like clearing out your light body and vessel and brain and like consciousness and stuff, if you're clearing that out, and then you can sustain that state of being and that state of flow consciousness where you're being, and like I do it, like I've talked about doing it with sound a lot, and that helps a bunch. But yeah, if you can sustain that, then you can start doing telepathy like more and more, because you can, it's easier and easier to let go of that message and not let it become a thought or a knot, and like a repeating pattern. And then you can also send things without letting anything else, like any of the like your past experiences, your past traumas, lower emotions get in the way. You can be in that flow and send the message really quick, and then just go back to the flow, and then receive it in the same way. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm trying to think of anything else right now. Kundalini yoga, they've told me that is like super important for that. Oh, also staring at candlelight and like staring at flames. I remember I fell asleep like a few nights ago at a friend's house that has a fireplace, and there was like a log burning, and I remember like meditating, getting into like a good state, and then I started remote viewing like through my third eye, like the actual flame and log, like the flames coming up and stuff. It was really cool. But yeah, a yogi in India told me that I should be staring at candlelight more, and I honestly haven't done that. But again, it's just like I'm in such a weird point, and I need to get in the routine of doing all that stuff again. But yeah, Kundalini yoga, it releases your inner flame and like amplifies this light, and that your Kundalini is supposedly like lives or is stored right here, like right below your belly button. I think it's like 2 or 3 fingers underneath your belly button. It's housed there, and then if you're doing like breath of fire, that goes it amplifies that energy and it brings it up, and when it comes up through me, it goes to the top of my head, like right here, and I can feel it like make my whole head vibrate, and then it feels like it spills down the front. And if I do that and I'm like listening the whole time, I'm not thinking about anything, and loving that sensation and loving the sound that I'm hearing, it's so purifying, and it cleanses your auras so well. And you can even focus on your heart chakra while you do it too, and doing that, the ETs have said previously that it clears out those like kind of gunked up channels a lot quicker that have been gunked up by like these thought knots or repeating thought patterns that can happen after you're like, you've cleared out all of like your past traumas. Then it's like a matter of like not letting any kind of thought or anything latch on, or let your own consciousness latch on to it, and it's hard to do, believe me. Like I've gone through some shit, like it's hard, man, because like especially like how how I was kind of getting addicted to it. I was thinking that I was speaking to something that wasn't really anything. It was just my own consciousness. And also, I was living with my parents, and my stepdad's like a super angry person, and I was picking up on their energy a lot too. And like, God, leaving their house and getting away from that has been so awesome, because I don't have to like worry about connecting with that energy as much. Like, it's that energy is still, and like it's more the memory of that being there, and some of like the memory of hearing some of their thoughts and emotions are still imprinted, but the physical sensation of their energy around is like really, really, really weak now. And it's really allowing me to get to the state that I need to be in to build upon some of these like lessons that I've taught myself, and some of these techniques that I've taught myself, like cutting things out of your world to get to that state where you want to learn telepathy is super important, because if you're constantly allowing something or someone to like control your life in an energetical sense, like an addiction, or somebody who's like been a vampire in your life, but you have like Stockholm syndrome almost. That's kind of how I felt like living at my parents' house, is like I had Stockholm syndrome, and I was just like comfortable in being a prisoner of that like dark energy, God, it sounds bad now, but like, yeah, after leaving and realizing what that was, and like getting to a space where clear telepathy was happening, and they were like, yeah, you need to leave right now. That's another thing I should mention, is like, if you get out in nature, that helps a lot. Like, you surround yourself with nothing but trees, and you do a lot of meditation, and then stuff will start coming through a lot easier. Getting into that bliss state, and allowing that state of being in those higher states, like you can be in a state of being but also have lower emotions. So it's kind of like, and that's why I think you always see pictures of yogis like doing their like look up to the third eye thing, but also they're like, they have this huge grin on, because it's like you want to practice being in that state, and like practice holding those higher emotions, because the more and more that you do that, the more and more that it's just natural in your everyday life, and you can just go about your day and be just a regular person, but also be in this like epic state of bliss, and nobody even has to know. That's another thing too that I've come to realize, is like, there are beings that are telepathic, that are walking around in America, that they don't walk around talking about it and spouting off like, oh, I'm an Arcturian, I'm a Pleiadian, they're just in a state of enlightenment, and but they don't talk about it, because this really, really good friend of mine, who's also a telepathic being, she told me that it's not conscious to talk about consciousness, and that was actually, she said that with telepathy when I was like really close to her, and it makes a lot of sense, like if you're talking about being conscious, you're not really in a state of consciousness. And we came to this planet to choose and experience a human life, and if we're always like, oh, I'm this being, I'm that being, I have these powers and I have those powers, that's not what we came here for. I mean, I'm obviously trying to like share my experiences just to like teach people, really, and what it all comes down to is just being able to end suffering, like the Buddhist way, like end suffering in your life, and be happy, and be in love, and spread love, and spread the good vibration, and that unity consciousness of being in that state, and that's how the world changes. That's how these fucking demons that have been running things on the planet, they don't become a thing anymore. They just lose all of their power, because the power of love can outweigh anything on this planet. And yeah, guys, so love you all.